that have joined us. So we are recording this presentation. Just want to be sure that everyone's aware of that. And we will be using this to put on our YouTube page for students that are unable to join us live. And also, if you would like to refer back to this at a later point. So yes, thank you all. So today we're going to be talking about finding and accessing resources on campus. We are with the Scholarship Foundation of St. Louis. And just to be sure that everyone is aware of what the Scholarship Foundation is, we are a 100-year-old non-for-profit organization that believes that an educated society is essential to a healthy democracy. And we award financial aid to students. We also advise students, and we advocate for and with students as well. So again, I'm Dominisha, one of the student advisors, and we have two of our other members of the advising team on the call who are going to introduce themselves as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Robert Segastuli. My pronouns are he, him, his, they, them. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Teresa Steinkamp. I'm the advising director. My pronouns are she, her, hers. Welcome and thank you for joining us. All right, so I'm actually going to get us started by talking about financial resources that are on your college campus or adjacent to your college campus, those things that may be available to you as a college student. So I want to start by talking about three key offices on almost every college campus that are financially related that you may want to know about. Dominisha, can you advance it to the next slide, please? So the first office is the financial aid office. In some cases, it may be known as student financial services or something like that. So this office is really important for a number of reasons. When you file the FAFSA, if you are a student who files FAFSA, that information goes to the financial aid office. The financial aid office is then responsible for determining what aid you are eligible for. They are assessing your need. They are making awards of federal, state, and institutional aid to help you cover the cost. And then they're ultimately responsible for distributing that aid to you to cover your bill and your expenses. So if you have a FAFSA question, if you have a question about verification, if you need to understand some aspect of your financial aid letter, if you took out a loan that you no longer want and you need to return it, or you have a question about a work-study job, the financial aid office or student financial services is one of the top places that you would at least begin that conversation. The second financial office is the cashier's office or the bursar's office. So the name varies from one institution to the next, but by and large, it's going to fall into one of those two names, cashier or bursar. And essentially they're responsible for tuition payments. So they are probably the office on campus that is sending you a tuition statement or a bill. So if you get something in your email or physically mailed to you that says, this is how much you owe us, it is probably coming from the cashier's office or the bursar's office. It is then also probably the office where you need to make a payment. So if you have costs unaccounted for by your financial aid, then you would likely need to make a payment, and that would be going through this particular office. In addition, if you wanted to set up a tuition payment plan, you would probably go through that office as well. The final office is the office of the registrar. And so it's a little bit debatable whether or not this is a financial resource or not, because they don't really give you money and they don't have a lot to do with financial aid, but there's a key reason why it's included here. And that reason is because they can be a holdup for students receiving aid or financial support. The office of the registrar is the place where you would go to get an official transcript or other documentation about your enrollment. And at the vast majority of colleges, if you owe the school money, the Office of the Registrar will not release that official transcript or other documentation of your enrollment to you. So it makes it difficult for a student to re-enroll at their institution. It makes it virtually impossible for a student to transfer those credits to another institution. We sometimes refer to them as like hostage credits, or credits that are held hostage by an institution, because that's essentially what the school is doing when a student cannot retrieve those credits and transfer them elsewhere. So this money owed for a past semester is typically referred to as a back balance. And so the back balance would need to be paid through the cashier's office or the bursar's office, but a lot of times students would be hearing from the Office of the Registrar. Is there a question? Yeah, you want to go ahead and unmute? And
Yes. Before I went to college, my senior year of high school, College Bound provided classes for St. Louis not SLU, but Forest Park. Would I have to go to the registrar's office to get those from there?
Yes.
Okay.
You would.
I never received those credits. I remember that from a while ago.
Yeah, and so so you would go there, and pre-COVID, you like had to go in person. St. Louis Community College is really a little complicated in that regard. You had to go in person. There may be a way to get it virtually now. I know a lot of colleges use something called the National Student Clearinghouse, which allows you to request like a virtual copy or digital copy of an official transcript.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Great question, Tavian. Thank you for joining us.
No problem.
All right, so those are sort of the three big offices on campus we want for you to be aware of. And I'm going to ask Dominisha to, thank you, Dominisha. So next, I just kind of wanted to think about some financial resources that may be available on your college campus. They could be available in the community. And I would invite you to remember that whether or not you're currently receiving funding from the Scholarship Foundation or not, the student advisors at the Scholarship Foundation would be happy to help you brainstorm, identify, and locate resources for any of these things. So the first is emergencies. So for better or for worse, we know that emergencies happen while students are in college. It could be an unexpected need to go home. It could be a car repair that surfaces. It could be that there's a job loss or a health emergency that crops up. There's a number of things that occur in students' lives that leave them with some kind of financial need that they need to attend to quickly. Prior to COVID, there were not necessarily a lot of emergency grant funds, but they did exist. In the age of COVID, we see that a lot of colleges have some funding for students in the form of emergency grants. And so I think the most important takeaway for you is to know that emergency grant support does exist. It may exist at your college campus. And so I would recommend first starting with the financial aid office if you have need for an emergency grant. But if your school doesn't offer emergency grant aid, I would then encourage you to follow up with the Scholarship Foundation, because we know of some resources that are community-based or state-based that we can help connect you to that may ultimately go back through your financial aid office. The second thing I wanted to think about is long-term planning. And so yes, there's this coming academic year, but there are also going to be additional school years. And so even if things this year have sorted themselves out, you want to be thinking about planning for next year. And so a lot of colleges have scholarships that you can continue to apply for. And so again, we would encourage you to be identifying what scholarship opportunities may be available on your college campus. Where can you locate them? What are the deadlines and how do you apply? In particular, it might be recommended to start with your academic department. So if you've declared a major and you know what you intend to study, you can speak with the academic department and find out if there's, maybe there's actually a scholarship from the chemistry department or the math department. And by identifying those specific departmental opportunities, you may be able to find some additional aid. And then the final thing with long-term planning is work study. So even if you don't have a work study job right now or a work study award this year, there may still be additional work opportunities moving forward, whether that's as a result of federal work study or just an on-campus job. And so that is a financial resource that is available to many students on their college campus in the form of student-based employment. The final financial piece I wanted to talk about is basic needs. And Dominisha, you can bring up all of those icons. Thank you. So the reality is that students need to have their basic needs attended to in order to be successful while they're in college. That includes financial assistance for housing and shelter, for food, and for utilities, among many other things like healthcare. So this is really just kind of us scraping the surface here of what these needs are. And I think it's important to understand that there are resources on college campuses, and there are certainly community resources that you may be eligible for should you find yourself ever with a need that has arisen. In particular, with food resources, the vast majority of college campuses now have a food pantry or some other assistance for students who find themselves short on food at one point or another. And so we would recommend locating the food pantry on your college campus. The federal government has temporarily expanded eligibility for SNAP benefits through the COVID emergency. And so that would be something that you could potentially tap into as well. With regard to utility assistance, we know that there has also been an expansion of some resources for like internet broadband, and we'd be happy to connect you with information on that as well. So I think the punchline there is there are resources, and as a college student, you are eligible to tap into those resources. And I would remind you that in some way, shape, or form, you are paying for these resources, right? Your tuition dollars at your college campus goes to these resources being available to you. And your tax dollars go into the state, federal, and other resources being available to you as well. So if there's a need that arises and there's something we can do to help connect you with a support, I would invite you to let us know. And I'm going to pass it off to, I think, Robert now.
Thank you so much, Teresa. And yeah, so right here, I'll be just going over the academic resources. But before we dive into academic resources, I think it is also important to highlight language, and that this will be key just through your search for some of these resources, because each campus will have their own name, interpretation, or just jargon that is utilized to name a few of these academic resources or some of the finances resources that Teresa was just speaking of. So really quick, the first one that I wanted to like highlight in this section is libraries. So like, although libraries are known for lending out books and having computers available to many students, libraries on college campuses hold so much more than just books. Now libraries have evolved to offer a lot of like online resources for research, so you can conduct your research without having to pay really expensive scholar articles. Also, libraries are often opening physical spaces for students to study individually or in groups. And they also offer classes that may be helpful and useful throughout your time on campus. It is also important though to keep in mind that as things have been like shifted and changed because of COVID, it is very important to always also look online and check what's the approach that the library is using in terms of like providing some of these resources. Another that I want to dive into is your career center. So career centers focus on providing just the need, support, and guidance to students in their like job search as they're about to graduate and or just after graduation. So most campuses with career centers will help students write resumes, learn about interview skills, write cover letters, and discover potential like jobs or jobs that are on the market. And also very important, if you're in a field that requires a internship, they will be also very helpful to like identify what internships might be available within your study field. And really quick, I kind of smashed the tutoring and writing center together just because during your post-secondary journey, most of you will find that some classes are just a breeze, while others may feel like you're really navigating through the Sahara Desert. Super difficult, right? I think that was part of my journey. So whether it's a material that is really easy or material that is presented a certain way, some classes may be more challenging than the others. So instead of just struggling alone and over some of these difficult classes, I would advise the students to just consider seeking some of the helps from tutors. And like Teresa said or mentioned before, all of these resources are paid by your dollars. So make sure that you're taking advantage of these opportunities. Another thing that I want to just emphasize similarly to the tutoring center is your writing center. It is safe to say that no matter what major or study of field you're going into, at some point you're going to have to write a paper. Either creative or like a research or anything like that. So it is important that if you are struggling or if you just need some affirmation on like your writing or tips on how to write an outline or how to cite an article and things like that, that you're tapping into those centers as well, because they will be definitely key to your support and guidance. And lastly, I just wanted to mention the advising. So these offices are in existence with the sole purpose of helping you. So you are there. Sorry, did I miss a question? I just saw something pop, but I can
I'm
continue.
answering it in the chat for now, Robert.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Teresa. So yeah, the advising center will be definitely key and important for all the students who are having questions about like what classes to take, what may work this semester, what may not work the next semester. Are there any priorities that you have to consider and think about? So making sure you tap into your advising opportunities will be great. And I also have to say, if you come across to an advisor that may not be able to respond to something to you, and you have that urgency, you can always tap into other advisors that might also like help you connect with what you need. And also a great source of information can be provided by your college professors. So keeping that in mind will be also helpful. We can move to the next slide. Awesome. One really quick mention about resources and alternatives is something that we have in our own website through the Scholarship Foundation. So whether you are a student who receives funding from the scholarship or not, you are always welcome to go to sfstl.org. And once you click on there, you'll go to that section that says advice and assistance, and then drop down to the resource arrow. Go ahead, Dominisha, thank you. Once you follow those steps, you'll come to this page that will have finances and academic resources. So very important, these are things that have been put by the foundation and students who have actually done internship with us. So they have put all this information together, and it gets updated every year. So if you have any questions about anything that may be financially or academic related, you are always welcome to go there. And if you look on the bottom, towards the bottom, there is also a section that has resources based on specific campuses. What I would say, if your campus is not named on that arrow, what you could do is you could still open one of them, see what information is being provided, and you can use that as a reference to like do your own research.
All right, thank you, Robert.
Yep, you're welcome.
So at this point, I want to share with everyone the health and wellness resources that might be available to you on your campus, or even within the community that your campus is in, that you might need to know or want to know. And I have broken down the different components of our health and well-being into our physical health, our mental health, and then also I'm going to touch on one element of our well-being. And so with our physical health, many campuses, you may already know or will learn soon that many campuses will have fitness amenities on campus. So like a fitness center available to students where you can go there, work out, use their weights or machines. That's maybe a good resource for you to get your blood circulated, to maybe relieve some stress. It could also be a good tool for reducing your anxiety as you are planning for exams or making your way through the semester. And a great resource for students who are planning to either maintain their physical health or start their physical health. You can add that as a component since you don't have to pay for a gym membership in most cases. This is a free resource, again, that you've already paid for through your tuition. And then also with our physical health, students will more than likely have access to a student health service or student health services on their campus, where there's usually a nurse practitioner or a nurse on staff, so that if you're not feeling well, you can go there for diagnoses, and then also treatment and medication prescribed to you. And you can also go there for referrals if you need to go see a specialist by chance. And so this is, again, something that's wrapped in your tuition and something you're already paying for. If you're seeing student health services on your billing statement, that's a service you're paying for. And that means that there's usually no out-of-pocket or upfront costs for students when they do have to go to one of the physical health services on campus. Now, related to our mental health, many campuses will have mental health services on campus. Really important component of our health, our general health. And if students don't have access to maybe counseling or therapeutic counseling services on their campus, I've noticed when I've been working with other students that if services aren't available, that campuses usually do a good job at providing resources or referring students to other options that are either near the campus or that are virtual services that students can tap into to support their mental health and well-being. And then this last point, our well-being, the one element of that, I know there's a lot of things that go into our well-being, but one element about that is community. And there are usually a number of ways on your campus where you can build and find community on your campus that is either religious or spiritual based. It could be affiliated with a particular political party or subject, or it can be educational based or something related to the career field that you hope to go into, etc. And so there are a number of options out there. If you're a student that is transitioning from high school to college, you might recall in high school, it may have been a lot easier for you to find community. Maybe you've been in that school district all your life. Maybe your home is near your school, and it's been really easy to find those communities, but you may find that you have to search and be a little more intentional when you're on the college campus to find those communities. It is something that's really gonna help us find our purpose on campus, and meeting people that have your same interests, but then also people that are gonna challenge you and also support you is gonna be really helpful for us. And, you know, based off of my experience and my experiences of working with other students, I found that it's been fairly simple to find these different resources that we've been talking about on the school's website. So you can go to your school's website. There's usually a search bar somewhere. And for example, let's say I'm not feeling good. So I'm going to type in Student Health Center. And it'll show you what the options are for on your campus. A lot of campuses have moved to either making an appointment beforehand because of the pandemic. So be sure that you are very familiar with the different services on campus so that when you need them or when you're ready to get out of your comfort zone and maybe join a club, you know exactly where you can go to either find how to get there or you know exactly how to get there. And then this last slide, this is something so that you can reflect for yourself. You can either write it down or think in your head. Definitely don't need to share with the group, but I think it's good for us to all reflect and make a note of the different ways you'll support your health and well-being on your campus. And if you find that it's challenging for you to think of that right now, maybe you can think of the different ways that you support your health and well-being currently. and then try to associate that to the different ways that you will continue to cater towards that when you do go onto campus this fall or whenever you decide to go to campus. And I'll give us all just a second to reflect on that. Maybe you can make a note to yourself, make a note on your phone or a physical note. And I think it's really wise for us to start thinking of those things now so that when it happens, when we do need it, it doesn't take a lot of effort for us to find those resources.
I have a just a ad lib. And something that really helped me and something I highly recommend is joining a fraternity or sorority if you're a new student. That helped with my health. It helped with my mental health. I'm not sure, Robert, if you remember the freshman year blues I was going through that I told you so often about.
Yes.
And when I joined my fraternity, a lot of things ended up turning around for me. I had people looking out for me when my health was low. My fraternity brothers really helped me. When my mental health was low, I would talk to them. I was the scholarship chair, so whenever they had any homework issues or needed help academically, they would come to me, and I would do my best to help them and make sure that they had everything that they needed, and they also did the same for me. So it's a really high recommendation of mine. If you have, I didn't know much about fraternities and sororities before I came to college, but after going to college, it's something I highly recommend.
Yeah, thank you so much for adding that in, Tavion. Thank you for sharing that you found that your fraternity was a great support system for you and was able to help you out in tough times. And you've also been able to help other students. So that's great. Thank you for sharing that. And now we have about 3 more minutes left. We like to be sure that we end on time. But we are also here if you all have any questions. I know a couple questions showed up in the chat, so thank you for asking those questions. But also you all can feel free to unmute yourselves and ask your questions out loud if you want to, but you can also continue to use the chat. But we want to be here. I know a couple of us have to head out in a minute, but a couple of us can also remain and be sure that we have all our questions answered. So feel free to ask all the questions you have. And then here's the contact information for the Scholarship Foundation. You see our phone number at the top, as well as our info email that you're welcome to shoot us an email if you have any questions or if you need any support on navigating resources on your campus, if you have any questions about financial aid or anything along those lines, or navigating any personal challenges that you're facing in college. And then also we have a link at the bottom if you want to connect with one of our student advisors. You all saw the picture. There's 3 of us on this call today, but there's 4 advisors, and that link at the bottom will take you to the bios of all of our advisors and the different ways that you can connect and schedule a meeting with us. And we can get that in that link in the chat for everyone as well.
One last comment that I would like to make, and just to add to Tavion's comment, and I appreciate that, Tavion, is that one of the greatest resources that you'll have is each other. So just making sure that you check in with each other and just talk to your friends on campus and things like that. That is definitely how you'll be able to stay connected to what's happening on campus.
Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you. Have a good day.
I've only been able to go through the archives. It's my first time actually being able to show up. My boss let me off for a second to do this.
That's awesome.
Oh. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Have a good rest of your afternoon.
You guys too. Have a great afternoon.